My name is Cassie Davy, and these are the projects that I worked on over the semester. So first we have my montage project. The one on the left is the one that I turned in. I like when I did them the first time, I liked this one better. The one on the right is a draft from the same week, but now that I know more, I know that the temple font, though the effect is cool, it doesn't really stand out the way that I want it to. So I went in and used this one on the right as my new one. I beforehand as a draft had just like had the idea sketched out but hadn't actually done it. So I went in with a picture of me and did the same like effect with the eye. I chose a different picture of the temple and I used colors from the blue in the eyes to be the color of the font, and I changed the quote. I like the way that they both look, even though there are some problems with the one on the left. For it being my first project and never having used Photoshop or anything before, I was really excited about it. And this was actually one of my favorite projects just because it's something that we see so much of, people like combining quotes and pictures, that I'd always wanted to know how to do it, so I was really excited to have that done and to get to share it and have people look at it. Our next project was the business identity project, and the one again on the left, I'll make it bigger just for this, but it was my original draft of logos. So these are the three that I was playing with, and then for the project, this is the one that I chose as my final. I had to sketch this out like in a notebook and had scanned it into the computer. Same with this little head down here, but I hadn't yet figured out how to draw those in Illustrator myself. So I redid the logo, and this is the new one that I came up with. And I just used the little pen tracing tool to trace the image that I drew for the wings, and then I used this little like Greek symbol that I ended up using in my web page. So to redo my logo, I used the colors that I came up with from my brochure project and some of the design elements that I'd come up with page and used the color scheme from both of those as well, just because I really liked how they worked and wanted to make the logo tie in with those. And my business is Athena. It's a girls' athletic company like Under Armour or Nike, but just for women athletes. And that's why I like the wings. It's like the Nike swoosh or the little wreath thing that Under Armour uses, and you can just have it stand alone, and people know what it was. And then Athena is the Greek goddess of war, and I thought that it was like powerful and would be a good motto. So I really liked the business identity project because I got to think really deeply about what everything meant and kind of put some symbolism in there. And then I also, for the business identity project, I redid the business cards. See if I can find those real quick. Okay, so these are what my old one looked like. I didn't change the letterhead at all because I don't hate it. I also don't love it, but we don't really use letterheads as much. But I did change, these were my original business cards, and I did change those. I just updated them with the new logo and the new colors. And then instead of just having the Greek symbols down here, I have it up here as well, and the little tagline, play like a girl. And I changed, this was on my old business card. I just updated the colors and I drew it myself in Illustrator rather than by hand. And then I added the circle to tie together the front and the back, and I changed the font from black to pink down here as well. Next is my web page. So this one right here is the new one, and my old web page is right here. So like I said before, I had came up with the blue and pink colors in my brochure and I liked those. So I used those in all of the projects that I redid. And I also changed the font to match those that I used in the brochure because I like those better as well. Um, One of the critiques I got when I got my web page back was to see if I could add more graphics and design elements. So when I redid my web design, I tried really hard. Like with these little sport icons, I drew those myself. I drew almost everything on here myself to try and add the graphic and design elements. And I also worked really hard on making sure that my text wasn't too close to the edge of the page or any of the other elements, and to try and make it look more professional and more like the way Nike and Under Armour have those websites because the business idea is similar. And then next, we have my brochure. And my brochure, I actually really liked the layout that I came up with on my original. I just had a ton of problems when it came to folding it. So when I did my brochure, this was the front, and you folded it in half, and then I had made a pocket in the inside that the rest of the pages fit into, and you pulled out like a separate flyer. And that just didn't work out as well in real life as it had in my head. So this is my original cover, and then this was the first page. And like I said, even though the fold didn't work, I liked the styling of the pages. So that's why I stuck with the color, and the only font I changed is this girl and these little font. I switched to a different one, but I kept the big one the same. And then this is the next page, and the next page, and these are little flyers in there, and the next one, and the last one. So for my new brochure, I pretty much kept the layout the same. I just changed the way that I would fold it. And I should have printed one out, but I didn't. So this it would be the front. So we have the logo, then the little about the company page, and then we move into basketball, volleyball, softball, and it would just fold into one circle. So it would start all stuck together as one circle, and then you flip it over and have this like long chain of little circles that have each little new page on it. But it would fold up like a ball because no matter what sport you're looking at, the one thing they all have in common is the ball. I also on these worked on my masking. That part's right there is still a little bit rough. But I really cleaned this one up compared to my original one and tried to make it look a lot cleaner. And I had some of my images that I used to sell on product were a little pixelated, so I worked on updating those as well. And then my very last project was the magazine. And the magazine was my favorite project just because I finally felt like I knew a little bit more of what I was doing. And when I went and took it in to be printed, was really happy with how it looked and proud of what I had created. And it was the least amount of help that I'd had to get from like tutors or YouTube or friends that I have that are graphic design majors, because I was finally starting to remember the things that we'd been learning in class and getting it done. So this is the cover of my magazine, and the only change that I made, the red looks kind of bad on here, but when it printed it looked really nice, so I left the red the same. But I aligned all of the font to the same side of here, the left page. And then I'd figured out how to use the timer on my camera, which is where this picture came from. And I have my own camera, so I got to play around with that for a really long time, which was nice. And then I came up with this design too to go with the name, the compass. So those are the changes I made to the cover. And this is the original layout of the inside. I kind of wanted to do something different than the ensign because I thought that that's what most people would do, and I wanted it to be different, so that's why it's so busy. And then this would be the changes that I made. So I got rid of the blue background and I got rid of the blue arrows. So still keep it a little different, but not as busy as it was. And then the last page, I didn't make any changes to. This is the back cover of my magazine. And I didn't change anything. I just left it just like that. But these are my projects. I had a really good time this semester. I really feel like I grew in my ability to choose fonts that looked well together and my ability to develop a color scheme and to also appreciate and use white space more. I do think that I succeeded in trying to be creative and think outside the box, especially when it came to my business identity project. That I did a good job of thinking like a business would and doing the research that goes into coming up with a logo. And my takeaway from class would be to really give myself time to work on and develop the ideas and be able to set the project aside and come back to look at it with fresh eyes. And I also learned that as much as you need to make sure that you're making the client happy, and that I am a little bit better at the creative business thinking process, like coming up with names and thinking of how to market like the Athena brand than necessarily the design. But I'm glad that I got to take this class this semester, and I enjoyed it.